Joining us right now is former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton. And Ambassador, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
Let's break down some of these last-minute actions, because we'd love to get your take on it. The release of the Gitmo transfers under President Obama. Your take?
Well, I think it's just one final insult to Americans who are concerned about the threat of international terrorism. And I think Donald Trump now has an opportunity. Remember, Obama said he would close Gitmo with one year of taking office, and he failed to do it, thank goodness. Now we can fill it back up again with the terrorists that we'll capture in the battlefield against ISIS, against al-Qaeda, and against others. This war on terror is not a war we sought. It's not that we want to have a Gitmo filled with terrorists, but to defend our country, that's what it's there for. And we know already the rate of return to the battlefield from so many of these terrorists is high, and that's only what we know of. I suspect the real rate is much higher because many of these people have disappeared. So to release some as he goes out of office, I just think is insulting.
Yeah. We know that they've returned to the battlefield and killed Americans. We know that from testimony from people within the government. What the recidivism rate is allegedly 30%, but you said it's much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point is, these people were in Gitmo because they were committing terrorist acts. People say, oh, but you shouldn't hold them forever. Look, they're not bound by the Geneva Convention, and even under the Geneva Convention, a legitimate combatant prisoner of war can be held until the war is over. And the war against terrorism has a long way to go.
Ambassador, do we know where they're being transferred to?
Well, we know what countries in each case they're being sent to: Saudi Arabia, Yemen, some other place.
Are they able to track them?
Well, no, and then they disappear. They disappear into the population, and who knows where they go after that.
I want to show you this breaking news because our first Inauguration Day tweet from President-elect Trump has come in. He just tweeted this: "It all begins today. I will see you at 11 a.m. for the swearing in. The movement continues and the work begins." From Donald Trump just a few minutes ago. How are you feeling on this Inauguration Day?
I feel great. I tell you, the big question, I know a lot of people think that the president-elect should not tweet afternoon today. I have a solution to this problem. The POTUS handle will be left behind at the White House, so if he kept his real Donald Trump handle and tweeted in a personal capacity and tweeted in an official capacity with @POTUS, I think that'd be okay.
I don't think the media can take so many tweets.
That's too much work. But in terms of work, because you've worked in administrations before, Ambassador, this is a very, very long train that Donald Trump has to pull, essentially. I mean, how much more difficult is it going to be for him than he might even imagine at this point?
Well, I think despite the criticism of the transition that we've seen, there really an awful lot of work has gone in. They know, in many respects, what they're going to do in the first 100 days, and I think there'll be a flurry of activity repealing executive orders on the domestic scene. I think a number of steps internationally. I don't have any inside information, but one prediction might be an announcement that our embassy in Israel will be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Which he's talked about.
Yeah. And so we'll see from the inaugural address today, which we understand will be short and more thematic, not a laundry list. But I think there's so many things. His hardest problem, in my judgment, is that there are so many problems to overcome, so many mistakes to be corrected, that you don't want to get tripped up to try and do it in an orderly fashion. But Dagan's exactly right. There's an awful lot of work.
Well, it's a cleanup job, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, and he needs to look forward, too. And I think especially in international relations, there are just so many opportunities that we've missed for 8 straight years that you don't want to stumble over them in your eagerness to get to them.
This is a really important point that you make because, you know, while the president has said that he wants to make this as smooth a transition as possible, there have been some instances where you almost feel like he's putting some barriers in Donald Trump's way. I mean, in terms of the commutations, the number is 1385.
1385 before the
today's news.
Right.
So 1,385 commutations, even before the last 48 hours when he put in these new 11th hours. That's more than 12 presidents, Dagan. Combined in terms of commutations.
And Maria, the Obama ordered the freedom of 568 inmates who were sentenced to life in prison. That number alone is shocking.
They were sentenced to life in prison.
Yeah, what he's doing is...
And they've shortened
mostly drug offenses.
He's rewriting the sentencing guidelines. He doesn't like it, so he's just by mass pardons changing the law again. He's done this over and over. And I think probably the worst thing he did in the past 10 weeks was the abstaining on the vote in the Security Council that allowed a very harmful resolution to go through on Israel. That's something that Donald Trump will find difficult to clean up, because unless you get that resolution reversed, the implications will flow forward.
Confirmation hearings, do you think everybody gets confirmed? What's your takeaway?
If I were going to bet at this point, I'd say yes. You haven't seen any Republicans, as far as I know, announce they were going to vote against any of the nominees. Few Democrats voting in favor of each one.
Sherrod Brown said that he's not voting for Mnuchin.
Yeah, no, I say on the Republican side, though, there have been no defections. Right. So holding the 50 that they need for Mike Pence to break the tie, it looks, so far anyway, like that's been the case for each nominee.
Hasn't been easy, Mercedes.
No, I think it's been brutal hearings, although, Ambassador, you've gone through several hearings of your own.
Look, I thought they were a piece of cake in many respects. But
really?
It's like the Democrats have spent 8 years supporting nominees. They've kind of gotten off their game a little bit. But I expect we'll see in the confirmation debates, perhaps even beginning today.
And I think the minutia that used to get in the way of an individual's confirmation, I kind of think this day and age, look at what Donald Trump was able to do, getting elected to the presidency and saying whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted to. I think that a lot of those concerns, like I employed one individual and I didn't know that the person was not here legally, or tax issues like that, I don't think those matter so much anymore.
And you need to understand that the Democrats' tactics is to stall. They want to stall these nominees. It's why they're not pushing for it. It's why Schumer's only moving on Kelly and on Mattis, which is very unfortunate. Yeah, because the president needs his team to get the ball rolling on his agenda.
Because the Democrats know that most of the bureaucracies in the federal government run in their direction. So if it's the career people in charge for a week, a month, 6 months, that's fine from their point of view.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it really is. Ambassador, good to see you.
Glad to be with you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador John Bolton there. We'll take